Hello everyone, this is Josh from Virginia Gun Owners. A lot of stuff has been happening lately. I'm going to go over some of the larger details and aspects of state and federal bills, proposed bills that are trying to, make their way through and become law, and it's not good. It's not good by any means necessary. So what I want to do is get everybody up to date on what's going on. But first, before I start, I would like to thank all the information that I get is from a very credible resource. It's Firearms Policy Coalition. They do a lot of work, a lot of lawsuits. They need help. I'm a member. I've been donating to them for quite some time now. Taking stuff to court's not free. It costs money. A lot of their lawyers are tremendously knowledgeable in their field, especially when it comes to 2A cases, such as things like that. So it's not free to do this. I mean, I'm sure if they could, they would, but court costs and whatnot. Everybody's been to court for something. It costs money. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I've got some things wrote up here. We're just going to talk about the state, then we'll talk about federal for a few. I'm going to try to keep these videos fairly short just for convenience's sake. So let's go get right into it. So on Wednesday, the Virginia House of Delegates passed 3 bills regarding guns and gun ownership, including background checks for gun transfers and sales, guns on school property, and 3D printed ghost guns. All 3 will now move from the House of Delegates to the Senate. So here's all 3 bills. I'll kind of go over them a little bit. House Bill 1909 would allow a school board to ban guns on its property. It would also ban anyone from knowingly possessing, buying, or carrying a firearm and ammunition while on that property. So that could go really bad. If you go and pick your kid up from school and you've got a few shells in your vehicle, couple things like that. Like you went to the range and you forgot you had a box, if you can find a box of 9mm or something right now, and it's in your car. So that, I mean, you could see where that would go downhill really quick. So law enforcement officers and qualified retired law enforcement officers would be exempt. So to me, that's a strategy. I'm not going to get into, conspiracy theories about it or whatnot, but there was a lot of backlash over the proposed, I forget which bill it was, but it was the big one. It was the one that we were all fighting. That was the reason I started the Facebook page, Virginia Gun Owners. They weren't going to give any leeway towards LEOs either. And that caused a lot of law enforcement, first responders to fight back too. And, a lot of the sheriffs, Culpeper County's sheriff has been a tremendous 2A advocate, and I applaud him. I would love to have a interview with him at one point in time on this page, which it would be great. So House Bill 2128 would increase the amount of time the Department of State Police is given to complete a background check before a firearm is transferred from 3 to 5 business days. I'm sorry, but it's the state. I worked for the state, Department of Corrections. If it's a state agency and they say, well, you're going to have this a lot of time, they're going to take it. That's just all there is to it. So you could say, oh, well, they might hurry up. No, they won't. They're loosening it up. They're giving them some slack, and they're going to absolutely take that time to do it. So you could go to a gun store and be like, well, I would like that, AR right there, that AR-15, something like that, shotgun, pistol, what it's a gun, and instead of getting it right then and there, my background checks every time I've went have taken no more than 20 minutes. That's not counting the time it takes me to, fill out the information. Actually, it does take the time that I fill out the information is about 30 minutes or so. So it's very quick. So you could go pay for that gun today and you won't get it for another week, basically. So that sucks. That's really bad. So the last one, House Bill 2276, 2276 would create a class. This was a big one. This would create a Class 5 felony for the manufacture, import, sale, transfer, or possession of plastic firearms and unfinished frames or receivers and unserialized firearms, which are often 3D printed or known as ghost guns. So I listened in on a little bit of the conversations about this. Needless to say, most of them are very uneducated about what a ghost gun is. So what they're wanting to do, in essence, is make 80% lowers illegal to have, to sell, to pass on to, like, hey, I got a brother here. He wants to use that to borrow one of my lowers that I built. It's illegal. It would be illegal. The bad news is it's the way they've worded these things is so nefarious that it probably will pass, because the Senate majority is in favor of Democrats, and we're going to really have to hammer down the ones that they're not extreme leftists. Sadly, that's not the case for many of them. I've had words with quite a few of them, especially the very uneducated Delegate Mark Levine. He is entirely wildly uneducated. Maybe he's not uneducated. He's a smart man. He's not a smart man. He's educated, but he's still. It's like he just doesn't want to accept the fact that he really knows. He's very ignorant when it comes to firearms and how they work, and he just wants to pass these totalitarian, authoritarian laws, and especially with our dementia victim of a president, it's not going to be very difficult now. So, also another thing that came to mind is when we passed these 2A, or when we got these 2A sanctuary movements going, that's really going to be, we're really going to have to dig our heels in and remind our local leaders that if your county did pass that, you need to remind them that it wasn't just for novelty. We're here to take a stand. We're standing up to unconstitutional infringements by these tyrants. So, and they're getting very ballsy with all these maneuvers they're doing. So on to federal. Let me pull up my notepad here. All these were drawn up by Representative Sheila Jackson. She's a Democrat, of course. So I'm a few days late on this, but we'll just kind of go over it anyway, because I'm sure there's some people that's, not listen or not, you're not up to date on it. That's totally fine. That's why I'm here to kind of shed some light on this awful subject. Anyway, let's get down to it. House Resolution 125 to amend Title 18 United States Code to provide a 7-day waiting period for semi-automatic firearms, the silencer, armor-piercing ammunition, or a large capacity ammunition magazine may be transferred. So there's another waiting period. I think it's very funny about the silencer, or aka suppressor, that you think you could honestly get a suppressor in 7 days. If you can do it, you're pulling massive strings, and I don't know how you've done it. So I think that was just honestly a slap in the face anyway. On to HR 127, to provide for the licensing of firearm and ammunition possession and the registration of firearms, and to prohibit the possession of certain ammunition. That's a really bad one. So what they're going to do, what their strategy is going to be, is they're going to say military grade calibers. So that's going to be your 7.62 by 39, 5.56, 223, so on and so forth. And they're going to try their best to make that illegal, just based on they're calling them weapons of war. Whatever they can do to make it sound as nefarious and vicious and brutal as possible. So that's going to be their deep strategy to that. They're just going to play on the people that aren't educated. They're ignorant with, I don't mean ignorant in a bad way, unless you're Delegate Mark Levine. You're an ignorant person. You're just an idiot. But they play on these suburbanite people in Northern Virginia that aren't, or any suburban area where a gated community doesn't necessarily mean you don't own a firearm, but more times than not, you're probably not going to. The culture there would probably be a little different. Like, oh, did you hear Ted has a AR-15? Why would you want something like? What is he, a prepper? And then you live in places like where I live, and it's like you've only got one AR-15. What's wrong with you? I mean, how many rounds do you got? Do you need some rounds? Well, that was probably a year ago. Probably couldn't expect that kind of charity from your neighbor now, but that's totally fine. If you're not ready now, then you're probably never going to be. So on to the next one, HR 130. This is another one that can possibly be used and abused by your average Joe to get back at someone else. So HR 130 to require the safe storage of firearms and ammunition, and to require the investigation of reports of improper storage of firearms or ammunition. Okay, I've got guns on the wall. They're not properly stored. I don't have any children. I have dogs. So I'm not worried about my dogs coming up, pulling them off the wall, shooting themselves, or what have you. This comes down to common sense, but this, if you have small children, put your firearms, when not in reach. But I'm not concerned with that. I have a wall of guns. I don't need to buy another, gun safe. Yes, I see the point of, somebody breaks in, they're probably going to steal every gun that I have. But that's neither here nor there. I choose not to have a gun, a gun safe. And, if anybody gets any big ideas while I'm here especially, and I have security systems here, so I don't have much to worry about. The sheriff's department's 10 minutes away from my house. My good friend is a town police officer. He'll come in. He's a good dude. He definitely would, do the right thing. Definitely be a hero because that's just how he is. He's a true blue police officer. So and it could be abused. I'm sorry. Touching on that, if you were to get pissed off at your neighbor and know that they do what I do, they could say, well, he's got guns just laying around on the floor. Well, guess what? I get a visit. And if they come in and deem it that, I'm being very bad with my guns, not being very responsible with them, which I am totally being responsible, I just have them on the wall. They could deem that irresponsible, and I could have my guns confiscated. It'd be that easy. That's what they're trying to do. That's why they're making these bills. They're so easy they're so easy to find the defendant guilty in a court of law over these things. Depending on the judge, of course, depending on what scumbag they want to put right there to judge this. So they could have somebody that would be completely 2A or somebody that's a far-right extremist leftist and have your firearms taken away. And they will do that. They will strategically place a unconstitutional slime bag up there and say, well, just, you're a felon now because of this bill that passed. That really boils my blood. Anyway, on to the next one, which would be House Resolution 167 to prohibit the transfer of a firearm at a gun show by a person who is not federally licensed firearm dealer. Once again, this is that gun show loophole spectacle that you always hear about. That will more than likely pass just because they've turned it into such a spectacle. And most people that sell firearms at a gun show are already licensed FFLs. Congratulations, you morons. I'm really trying not to curse because I'm trying to reach out to as many people. I don't want to get demonetized, or not demonetized, but age restricted. So I'm really trying not to get really mad and curse about stupid stuff like this. So that kind of covers it for the state and federal tyrannical laws. Of course, I'm on behalf of Virginia gun owners. So, but if I see some news that's very noteworthy for other states, I will definitely cover them. But I try to take care of my once great state So that being said, I would like to appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening. Let's get this ball rolling. Let's dig our heels in. We've got to fight back. This whole weak-kneed Republican stuff that we've seen in the past election and stuff, let's hope to God that that doesn't happen with these gun laws stuff. All the gun laws, or the gun bills, I'm sorry, let's pray to God that doesn't happen. But you can also make an impact too. Always remember that. So this has been Josh with Virginia Gun Owners. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you want to keep up to date, like and subscribe. I'm not good at this YouTube stuff. My coffee machine back there is getting ready to explode. I'm sure you can hear it, so I wish I'd have turned that off. So, like I said, like and subscribe. Tell a friend, tell some family if they want to keep up to date. I'm not going into super detail. There's other pages like Arms Scholar, Guns and Gadgets. They do a fantastic job, but I like to shed light on the subject. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here and shoot my coffee machine with one of my probably illegal guns in the near future. So everybody have a good one.